Okay, so today we want to create this kind of like a slider that is basically changing the pictures, the images as the time passes. Okay, so we know one thing, that there is a timing function involved. And how many timing functions do we have in JavaScript? Two, and those are, what are those two functions, those two timing functions?
Time in and
Time out, and the other one was
time in.
no, one was time out and other one was which constantly
Set
repeats
interval.
itself, set interval. Okay, it was interval that repeats itself after a set number of time. Okay, so first let us do the designing part, and this one is done, this one is also done, and here I need to pay close attention because this one has some complexity in it. Okay, so this is our hero section, or we can call it, let's say, slider section, although it's not a slider but it's like a slider. Okay, so what you're saying here is there are a lot of images that are stacked on top of each other. So how can we create that, like images that are stacked on top of each other? Now, so first I'm going to say images, and here I'm going to have an image. I cannot inspect it directly, so click on three dots, more tools, and then developer tools. Okay, so we can get these images from the sources. Let's see which one is this one. I think, yeah, this one. So I'm going to download the images. So I'm going to make a folder with the name of images. I'll download it, save image, and I need to download them inside the same folder I'm doing my coding in. So it's the cheesiest folder. So I think it's on the desktop, and yeah, here inside the images directory I'm gonna say image 1. Okay, so image 1, this one is going to be image 2, so I'm gonna save it as well. I'm gonna say image 2, and I think these are not being saved properly. I need to put the extension here as well. So save image as, I think it's the JPG or PNG, whatever. Let's do JPG, image.jpg, and yeah, similarly for the second one, save, and it's going to be called image2.jpg. And then we have this third one, image3.jpg. Fourth one, image4.jpg. and yeah, this last one, save image as, and let's name it image5.jpg. Okay, all of the images are inside our directory. Let's rename this one so it matches with the other one. So image and 1.jpg. Okay, now we want to have all of these images inside this image div. Okay, so what is our source, like where is our image located? I want to put image 1, so how do I put the path here? Our images are located inside the images folder, that is inside the same directory, that is inside the same folder as our index.html. So how many dots am I going to put here?
1.
Very good, one dot, and then
Forward slash.
very good, slash. Slash basically indicates the path. And then which folder do we want to go in? Images, good. And which image do we want to put? Image 1, good. So, and we want the width to be 100% because we want it to take up the full space of the screen. And let's see, do we have the images or not? Yeah, perfect, we have the image. Similarly, I'm going to copy it down, and I'll have image 2 here as well. And yeah, similarly for the image 3, perfect. For the image 4, yeah, and image 5. I think this image is quite big, so let's give height to each image as well. So I'm going to say height to be, let's say 500, or maybe let's say 400 px. Yeah, but the images are stretched. So what is the property for the images to make them, not go stretch? So what was the property? I think we have discussed about this when we were doing the dice game project. Like the images are being stretched. What was the property? Let me also give it a class. Here images, so I can target them. What was the property which allow us to make these images fit inside their parent? I'm giving you the hint. Hero image, it was called object fit. Have you studied about this property?
Yeah.
So object fit, we want our image to cover the entire parent, so object fit to be cover. So now it covers the entire parent. Okay, now the next step what we want to do is, we want all of these images to be stacked on top of each other. So what should I do? Because if you were to look in the real website, all of these images are stacked on top of each other, and they are just changing their opacity from 0 to 1. When the image is 0, when the image is with opacity of 0, we can't see it. But with the time intervals, it's changing its opacity to 1. So that's why we can see it. So first thing I want to do is, I want all of these images to be stacked on top of each other. How can we do that? How can we make all of these images stack on each other? We have discussed about this again like 1,000 times maybe. How do we make the images stack on top of each other? We can just give them the position of absolute, and that's it. All of these are going to be stacked on one another. Okay, but we want the first image, that is I guess image 1, to be always on the top. So how can we do that? How can we make the first image stacked on top of every other image? We have discussed about this as well. First of all, let me get this image. Yeah,
First image को sir that index.
very good. We can give that index to the first image. So let me target them separately as well with a different name. Okay, let's target hero 1, and we can give the z index of, let's say, 22 or whatever you want. So it's going to be displayed on top. Okay, now since we're done with the designing part, now let's move towards the functionality part. Okay, let's move towards JavaScript. Now I need you to pay really close attention. I want to get all of the images at once. How do I get that? How do I get all of the images at once? If I were to use query selector, it's only going to get me the first image. I want to get all of the images at once.
Query selector
So should we
all.
just,
Very good.
yeah, all.
Query selector all. Good. So I'm going to say let images, and then we're going to be document dot. Let me disable it first. Okay, query selector all. Like I want to have all of the images. And what was the name of the images? It has the same name, hero image. So I'm going to say hero dash image. Okay, let's build the logic here. Now you guys tell me the logic. I'm going to do the code for you, although you have to do it yourself as well, but you first have to tell me the logic. What is happening here? I need you to analyze it and then give me the answer. What is happening here?
सर एक इंटरवल ऑफ टाइम के बाद जो चेंज हो रही है
Very good. After an interval of time, images are being changed. And how are they being changed? Like they are being changed, but how are they being changed?
It's like a slideshow.
It's like a slideshow. Good. And which property is being changed? Like one disappears and other one appears, but it has a smoothness in it.
Like transform?
No, transform is used to basically move the image from left and right. Image is not being moved.
ट्रांजिशन सर इसमें यूज हो रही है
Transition is used for smoothness, but we want to opacity. Perfect. Good. The opacity of the images is being changed. For example, let me give you an example. Let's go back to our styles. Here, let's target the hero image. If I were to do this, opacity of 0 to each image, what's going to happen?
It becomes, it fades.
Exactly, it becomes invisible. Like we can see it. Let me also put the transition here because we will need it later on. So if I were to go back to my website, you would not see any image here. Why can't you see any image? Why can't you see it?
Because we're seeing the opacity.
Exactly.
It makes it transparent.
Yes. If I were to do on hero 1, that is the first image, opacity back to 1, what's going to happen? Which image are we going to see?
The first one?
The first one. Good. If I were to do this, hero 2, which image we're going to see now? The second one. So this is what we have to do, but we want to do it with some intervals. And who's going to do that for us? JavaScript. Okay, now this is going to be interesting. Again, I need you to pay close attention. First of all, we need to get the first image. Then after an interval of time, we need to get the second image. And then after an interval of time, we need to get the third image. And we need to repeat this process on and on and on. So what should we do?
Well, we use query selector all.
We already did. We already get all of the images. Like it's inside the images variable. We need an interval of time. So which built-in function are we going to use?
set time
No, set timer is only going to be executed once. We want it to be executed again and again. So what was the set interval? Okay, so here I'm also going to put comment interval for the images. Okay, so how do we write set interval? I'm going to say set interval. Now what is set interval? We have discussed about this.
It will run the code.
Yeah, it will run the code, but how do we write it? Set interval is what? It's a what? It's a function. Good. So it's a function that is going to take what?
another function.
Very good. Another function as a first parameter. Here you go. And what is the second parameter this interval takes from us? Comma. And then what is the second parameter?
Time
Time. So I'm going to say, let's say 1000. What does this 1000 mean?
1 second
1 second. Like this function, the functionality inside this interval is only going to be executed after every second. So let us test it out. I'm going to say console.log, let's say interval ran. So 1 2 3, it's constantly being executed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we need to do now? We are going to say to this interval, like first, in the first second you need to show me the first image. In the second you need to show me the second image. In the third, in the fourth, and you need to keep on unless you reach the end of the images. Okay, before going towards this function, I need an answer to the question, that is, what are we getting inside this images variable? Like when we say query selector all and hero images, what do we get inside this images variable? We get all of the images, right? But in which form do we get all of these images? Like what is the data type?
classes
No.
image
in which format do we get all of the images? Like I think I've told you guys about when we get a lot of images from HTML to JS, they always come in
Is it a
array. Good.
array? Yes.
So basically these images are an array. So if I need to get the first image, what am I going to say?
0.
Very good. I'm gonna say inside the interval I'm gonna say console.log and then images, that is my images, and then array brackets and 0. This is going to get me the 0th index. Look, it's going to get me the first image. Look, it's showing me the image as well. If I were to do 1, what is it going to do? It's going to get me the first image now.
First image.
Yeah, wait, where's the first image? Refresh it, and here's the first image. Not the first image, second image. Okay, similarly, if I were to go with 2, it's going to now get me the third image. So here you go. But I'm doing this statically, like I'm hard coding this number. I want this number to be changed on its own. Do you remember the counter project?
Yes.
What did we do with that counter project? Like every time I
Want to
click,
use the eye?
yeah, we can use the I or we can use a variable, because this
Yeah.
can't be changed. This is a hard coded value and hard coded values can't be changed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a variable, because we can change the variables. We can change the hard coded numbers, we can change the variables. So I'm going to take a variable, let's name it count. Initially it's going to be 0 because our indexes starts from 0. Okay, instead of writing it hard coding it here, I'm going to say count. Now what does this mean? I need you to console log me images, the array of images, and whatever the index is stored inside the count. So what is stored inside the count at the moment?
0.
0. So it's going to get me what? Images. It's going to get me all of the images array and get me the first image inside that array. Look, it's going to get me the first image if we have the first image. Okay, but now after every second I want my count to change, like I want my count to increase. So what can we do?
Count plus plus.
Very good. Inside the interval we can do what? Count plus plus. Now look, every time this interval runs, it's going to get me the new value, updated value, but I need to move this below console log, because else it's going to get me the fresh index instead of the 0 index. Now I want you to pay again close attention. First is going to get me the first image, then second, then third, fourth, fifth, but there would come a time when it's going to say undefined. Why is that?
So there's no more images?
Very good, because there's no more images than the than 5 images. So what should we do? When it reaches the 5th image, I want it to go back to the first index. How can we do that? We have already did that before as well. Like we did everything. I'm asking you. We did everything.
We can apply
loop.
condition.
Conditions, not the loop. Conditions. Okay. So before assigning any values, we are going to check. So what are we going to check? If what?
If the count
Very good.
length is
If
greater
count
than
is greater than, very good, images dot length. Very good, but there's a problem. The count is starting from 0 and length starts from 1, so there's a mismatch of numbers. So what can we do?
-1.
Very good. We can subtract -1 from the length, because count starts from 0 and length is starting from 1, but we need to match them. So that's why I'm going to -1 from here. Okay, so what are we going to do if the count is greater than this? We are going to reset the count back to 0. How? Count is equals to 0. So what are we doing here is, what I'm saying here is, if the count is greater than images dot length -1, why? Because count is starting from 0 and length is starting from 1. We need to match the count and length, so that's why we're subtracting 1 from the length. If it is if count is greater than the length, that is saying undefined at the moment because the count is greater than the length. So we want the count to go back to 0. Okay, basically kind of like an infinite loop. So if we were to go back now, we are going to see that we are going to get 1 2 3 4 5, and then it should go back to 1. Yeah, perfect. 4 5, and then it should go back to 1. Yeah, is it clear, or should we do it again?
It's good.
It's good. Okay, but you have to do it yourself, and I think you haven't done the previous assignments as well. Okay, so instead of just console logging, we want it to appear them here. How can we do that? Instead of just console logging, we can say that go to the images array and then get me the count index, like the count indexed image. I want the style for that image, and inside the style I need the opacity of that image to go back to what? Like at the moment it's 0, so it should be
0.
no, it should be like 1. We want it to see. So wait, why is it not working? It's working, but the problem is all of these images now have the opacity of 1, although we're really close but not close enough. So what we want to do is we first want to decrease the opacity and then increase the opacity. First we want to decrease the opacity for each image, because at the moment all of these images are, have the opacity of 1. Let me show you. Look, the first image has the opacity of 1, the second one as well, the third one as well, the fourth one as well. What we want to do is we want the previous images to have the opacity of 0, and then the current image being shown to have the opacity of 1. Okay, does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so how can we do that? How can we first remove the opacity from the images and then assign this opacity? How can we do it? I want
सर एक
all of
और
the
कंडीशन अगर
no,
बता दें.
no. We need to get all of the images.
Oh, can they're
Yeah,
all set? They all starting with 0
yeah, they all
currently.
started with 0, but eventually they all get 1. So that's why we're seeing all of the
Yeah.
images. What we want to do is every time in every interval, on every interval, we first want to remove the opacity and then assign the opacity to the specific image, the one being shown.
So do we give all of them 0?
And how can we do that? Yeah, we have to do that. Exactly, good. But how
Well,
can we do that?
I'm not sure. I'm just thinking that maybe we assign a 0, then we increase 1 every time.
Exactly,
नहीं
exactly. That's exactly what we have to do. But how are we going to do this? We want inside the interval, we first want to decrease the opacity, like we want to assign the opacity of 0 to each image. Each image. I'm actually giving you the hint.
सर जब हमने इधर इसको 0 कर दिया है और इधर काउंट के अंदर ओनली 0 है, तो फिर ये क्यों सबकी ओपेसिटी 1 हो गई है?
Very good question. Like we have assigned the opacity for each image to be 0, right? So why is each image having the opacity of 1? Because in the interval we are saying first the count is 0. Yes?
Yeah,
Initially the count is 0. So the 0 image is going to have the opacity of 1, right?
yeah.
But that 0 image is not reassigned the opacity of 0. It always stays 1. Similarly for 1 as well. And then the 2, second image, then the third, then the fourth. Like they all get the opacity of 1. They are not reset back to the 0 opacity. When this runs,
Okay.
all of the images are going to get the opacity of 1. What we want to do is every time this runs, first we want to get all of the images to have the opacity of 0, and then the current image that is being shown to only have that opacity of 1.
तो सर इसको एक बार तो शो होना चाहिए था ना, सेकंड टाइम बेशक ना होती, जो वन टाइम तो शो होना चाहिए था इसको.
It is being shown, but the only problem is it's so fast that we're just seeing the this last image.
Oh,
Okay, and because of the z indexes as well.
okay सर.
Okay, so before assigning the opacity of 1, we need to decrease the opacity of all the images. So get the opacity of 0 to each image. So how can we get each image?
Each means for each.
Very good, for each. So loop, basically inside the loop we're going to say first you need to decrease the opacity of each image. How can we do that? We're going to say images and then dot,
For each.
very good, for each. For each is what? It's a function that is going to take,
Another function.
very good, another function. Inside the internal function we have how many variables, parameters we can take?
Number of images.
To item and
items and
index. What does this item holds?
Number of images.
Very good, it holds each image. Like first is going to have the 0 and then the 1, then the 2, then the 3 and so on. So what we are going to say is each item in this images array is going to have the opacity of 0. So how can we do that? Item dot style dot opacity to be 0.
So we're doing that for each image, right?
Yeah, for each image, yes. It's going to do it for each image, and then after applying the opacity of 0 to each image, it's going to read the next line, and next line is saying what? That the current image should have the index of, opacity of 1. So first it reduces the opacity of each image, and then only shows me the image that is currently being the current value of count. Let's see if it's working or not. So yeah, perfect. But what's the problem? Like it's working. Look, it has 0, 1. It assigns back to 0. Okay, and then the current image has the opacity of 1. First it had 0, then the second one has 1, the third one has 1, and previously all of the images gets back to 0. It gets reset back to 0. Let's do it one more time. But I'm not going to do it this time. You have to do it. Take a good look at this one because I'm going to ask each step from you. Have you guys taken the good look?
Yeah.
Okay, let's remove it. Let us start again. So what we did here is we did the opacity of 0 to each hero image, like we cannot see anything. Okay, by default we can't see anything. Or should we see? I think, yeah, it's good. Let it stay as it is. Okay, so by default each image has the opacity of 0. What we want to do is we want the images to have an opacity of 1 with a proper interval of time. Like each image is going to have a proper opacity with each interval of time. So for that we need to have a function that is assigning the values each second, like it's running each second. So which function are we going to use? What are the timing functions we use for a constant?
Set interval?
Yeah, interval. Why are we not using the set timeout function?
Because that's for when we want it to stop.
Very good. Because that's only going to be executed once.
Yeah.
We want to execute the function again and again. So that's why we're going to use set interval. So set interval is what? It's a what?
Function.
A function that is going to take,
Another function.
very good, another function. Here you go. And the second parameter it takes is the time. So previously I think it was too much, so I'm going to say 2000. Okay, because the previous one was a bit fast. Okay, what we want to do is we want to get all of the images one by one. So if I were to do this, console.log images. Now images is what? It's an array. Look, it's an array. Okay, but we want each item of the array. So if I were to do this, like array brackets and then 0, what is this going to do?
The first picture.
Yeah, it's gonna get me the first picture. Okay, after each 2 seconds. So if I were to do it 1, it's gonna get me the second image. If I were to do 2, it's gonna get me the third image, and this is exactly what we want. but we want to do it programmatically. Like this one, we're hard coding it. So how can we change this number after every 2 seconds? Like currently we're just hard coding this number, we're writing it ourselves. We want it to change it dynamically. So what are we going to do?
Take a variable.
Very good, take a variable. We're going to take a variable, let's say let num this time, and I'm going to say 0 because the images, the indexes are starting from 0. Okay, so instead of hard coding here, I'm just going to pass what? The num variable. So I'm going to say num. So what is stored inside the num?
0.
0. So it's basically what we are going to get is images and then the 0th index. But again, this is going to get me the same image again and again because num is not being changed. So what we are going to do is after every 2000 seconds we want num to increase by 1. So what are we going to say?
Num plus
Very
plus.
good, num plus plus. So after every 2 seconds I want the image to change, and how can we do that? Just by adding 1 to the num. So when we are going to add 1 to the num, so this thing is going to dynamically change. Let's see. We have the first image, then we have the second image, then we have the third, and then so on. But there is going to be a problem. After the fifth image is going to say undefined. Why is that?
There's no more images.
Very good, there are no more images. So how can we sort that out? How can we fix that?
We have to reset it to 0.
And how can we do that? Good.
Num equals 0. With the if.
Yeah, and what is the if? What is if called? There's a proper technical term for that.
If.
Yeah, what is if?
Condition.
Conditions. So yeah, conditions. We're gonna put conditions here. So what is the condition? If num is greater than what? The length of the images. Good. Images dot length. But the problem is the num is starting from 0 and the length starts from 1. We need to match these two numbers. So how can we do that?
So we add the num and just add it to 1.
Yeah, if we were to add 1 to num, we are not going to get the 0th index then. We want to see the, yeah, so we're gonna just subtract 1 from the length of the images. This way both of these numbers are going to match up. Okay, if this is the case, we want our num to reset back to 0. So how can we do that? Simply num equals to 0, and that's it. So let's test it out if it's working or not. First we're gonna have what happened here? Okay, third image, fourth, fifth, and then it should go back to 1, and perfect. Okay, now it's in the constant loop. But we don't want to just console log it, we want to see the images. Now this line you guys are going to dictate me. How are you going to see the image? We just have to set the opacity of the images back to 1. How? Like first we want to get the 0th image to show, then the first image to show.
Do we use the for each function?
No, for each is going to get all of them at
Do we
once.
have to do query selector for all?
We already did that. Yeah, images. Like go back. Very good. Go back to the images array and get me which index. Like which image do we want to show? Num. Good. Whatever the number is inside the num variable. And then I need
Dot style.
Very good. We need to get the style of that specific image, and then we
Dot
want the
opacity.
opacity back to 1. It's going to work, but it's only going to get me the last image. Why is that? Because all of the
Number
images
1.
now have the opacity of 1. Yes, good. Now before assigning the opacity of 1 to each image, we are first going to assign the opacity of 0 to each image. And how can we do that? Before assigning this value, we're gonna say that I want each image to have the opacity of 0. How can we do that? Like we want
For
to get
each.
each image. Good. So for each on what? Like what do we want
Images.
to loop on? Good, images. So images dot for each. Good. It's a what?
Image.
It's a for each is what? It's a function that is going to take
Another function.
another function. Good. And inside this function we're going to have two parameters. One is going to represent each element of the array. And what is the element of this array? Like what do we have inside this images array? Images. Yeah, so the first parameter is going to represent each element of the images array. So it's going to be an image. So this time I'm not going to say item, let's say image. Okay, you can name it whatever you want. And then the second parameter is the index. This is going to hold the index number for that. Okay, what do we want to do? We want each image to have an opacity of 0 before assigning it the opacity of 1. So how? We're going to say image and then dot style dot opacity of 0. So first each image is going to have an opacity of 0, and then after this reading this line is going to read this line, and whatever the number is inside the num is going to get that specific image, and it's going to increase the opacity of that specific image to 1, and every other image is going to have the opacity of 0. Let's test it out. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's working, but there's a problem. There's this white screen when the website loads. Why is that? Why do we have, like, why is the screen white for 2 seconds? Because
is it because like it loads a little later? It starts with 0.
very good, because initially,
Opacity.
yeah, good, initially the opacity of the images is 0, but we want the first image to show by default. So we can target the first image and we can say the opacity of this one is going to be 1. So let's see, refresh it, and we have the first image. Yeah, perfect. Any question? Yeah.
So we set that the first image's opacity to 1.
Yeah, so that
That way, when you do that, the image just shows by default right away.
very good, exactly, because initially what we were doing before is we were setting the opacity of each image to 0. Okay, and inside the JavaScript we're saying that after 2 seconds you need to show that image. So we have to wait initially 2 seconds for the image to load, and this way it.
So we keep the others at 0.
Exactly, good. We keep the others at 0, but we show the first image. Why is that? So that the user experience remains good.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to do this like what we were doing before was, so it basically impacts the user with a bad experience.
It looks like it's lagging.
Exactly, good. So that's why what we want to do is we want the first image to have the opacity of 1, so the user sees an image as the website loads. For example, I'm reloading it now. I'm seeing the image. Okay, it's not basically hidden by default. We're seeing the image. And yeah. So any questions?
So what? Sorry, I just wanna. So when you log other websites, if we kept the opacity higher than 0 for each image, it would go faster.
No, we can't do that. Opacity, the range of opacity is from 0 to 1. Okay, 1 means that it's totally visible. Okay, let me show you. If you were to do, let's say 0.5, so you would see that there is going to be, wait, let me first decrease this and comment this one out as well, because this is interfering with what I want to tell. Okay, can you see now? We can see images through the first image. So basically this means that we can see through the image. Okay, so basically the opacity range is from 0 to 1. We cannot go above 1, we cannot go below 0.
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be all for today. If you have any questions, please ask, because this one has a lot of logic. Okay, and inshallah this website has more logic on the way as well. So if you have any questions, please ask, and please, you have to do your assignments, otherwise you would not get anything we're doing. Okay, you have to watch these videos around 2 to 3 times in order to get the concepts, and I want you to please do it, because otherwise it's going to be really difficult as the course progresses.
Yes, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
so if there are no questions, then that's it for today, and inshallah in the next class we're gonna have another logic involved, like in this slider it has more logic as compared to the previous one. Okay, although it looks small and it looks easy, but it's really difficult, to be honest. Okay, not difficult, but it has a lot of logic. Okay, so if there's no questions, you guys can leave, and inshallah we'll have the meeting in the next class as well. Okay.
Now you can see my
Okay. Allah Hafiz, thank you. Allah Hafiz. Islam.